We're going to take you now to Chicago, where authorities are giving an update on a deadly shooting at Mercy Hospital. Let's listen in.
Parking lot between individuals that knew each other. There was a third subject out there that was a friend of one of the individuals. That friend attempted to intervene in the verbal dispute. At that time, our offender, the male individual, lifted up his shirt and displayed a handgun. So that individual, the acquaintance, fled into the hospital. 911 received a call shortly thereafter of an assault taking place in the parking lot. A few seconds later, a second call came out of shots fired in the parking lot. Now we know that the male individual shot and killed the female that he was in a domestic relationship with, who was an employee of the hospital. Officers then proceeded to the scene and observed the male subject with a handgun. The subject fired multiple shots at the officers before they could exit their squad car. Several of those shots causing damage to the police car. The subject then ran inside the hospital doors where the officers gave chase. The officers broadcast the police officer needs assistance across the radio. A few other units responded right away, including SWAT. They engaged the offender for several minutes in the hospital with gunshots being fired by the offender and by the police. During the exchange of gunfire in the hospital, one other female staff member was struck by gunfire, fatally. During that exchange, one of our officers that responded was also fatally wounded by the offender. During the gunfire, the offender was also fatally wounded. It's unclear right now whether it's by police gunfire or if it was self-inflicted wound. So we have 4 deceased individuals: police officer, 2 female staff employees at the hospital, and the offender. The mayor and I have spent some time with the officer, his wife, his mother-in-law. The officer had just recently come off of probation. What I would ask is that you all keep all the victims of today's horrific incident in your thoughts and prayers. And now I'd like to ask Mayor Rahm Emanuel to say a few words.
In the span of a few hours, the superintendent and I have seen the emotional highs and the emotional lows of the Chicago Police Department family. We started this morning at a promotion and a graduation in Navy Pier, one of the largest in our history. A graduation and a promotion which are fondly remembered by the families that attend. A milestone that is cherished. Just hours later, a death in the line of duty. Selfless in his actions. That's a moment we all fear. The city of Chicago lost a doctor, pharmaceutical assistant, and a police officer, all going about their day, all doing what they love. This tears at the soul of our city. It is the face and the consequence of evil. Every one of us will celebrate in a few days time with our family in the holiday. We have members of the Chicago family who, in both this holiday and other milestones in their family, will not be there. I ask each of us to hold our children, our loved ones, all that closer. Remember what is important in life. And that there are others who are part of our larger family who will have a tear and a hole that will never really heal, but will always have a scar. We left the superintendent and his leadership team, Kevin from the FOP, the police and fire who all responded and did a heroic effort, and also the doctors and nurses here and in other hospitals who did a heroic effort. I want to thank them and remember them. Kevin?
Today, the Fraternal Order of Police lost a valued brother, a courageous police officer who got up this morning, went to work, and wanted to protect the city of Chicago. He did just that, but he did so with his life. He will be missed by the FOP, by the city of Chicago, by his wife, his children, and the entire city. Our thoughts and our prayers are with him and his family tonight, and we will do whatever we can to help his family. Thank you.
Okay, being mindful of what's going on, I'll take a few questions. He was an officer from the 2nd District. He came on in February of 2017. He and his partner were actually doing something else and responded to the officer needs assistance call. When they pulled up, they heard the gunshots, and they did what the heroic officers always do. They ran towards that gunfire. So they weren't assigned to that particular call, but they went because that's what we do. Yes. So when they're first out on the street, they're on a probationary period for about a year and a half. He had just recently completed that, so he was a full-fledged police officer.
Superintendent, is the offender a history of either firearm violence or any other criminal offense?
Not that we can find, no.
Can you say anything about a second officer being hit?
A second officer was struck in his holster, so he wasn't actually struck in his body physically, but his holster was struck.
Superintendent, are these issues with the hospital's active shooter, are those things that your department's trained on, things that you work with the hospital administration?
Yeah, it is. As a matter of fact, we train with the hospitals and the fire department for incidents just like this. And I will tell you all this. Those officers that responded today saved a lot of lives because this guy was just shooting that poor woman that got off an elevator. Had nothing to do with nothing, and he shot her. Why? There's no doubt in my mind that all those officers that responded were heroes, and they saved a lot of lives because we just don't know how much damage he was prepared to do. Yeah. Correct. Yes, she was shot by the offender. That's who shot her. He had one gun, but like I said, this has been a difficult day. As the mayor said, we went from the highs this morning to the lowest of lows. So with that, I'm just going to close and just ask you all to please say a prayer for that police officer and his family and for those other victims that were gunned down needlessly today. Thank you all.
How many children do we have?
3.
We've been watching Chicago officials give the latest information on today's deadly shooting at a hospital. 4 people died. The shooter, a police officer, and 2 hospital employees. We'll have the latest on the shooting as we get it.